Hi everyone, David Aragona and Craig Milkowski are taking a look at one of the two stakes events on Saturday at Aqueduct. Interesting situation here with these lucrative events for the 2-year-olds sired by New York Stallions. And we're going to take a look at the female division of this race. It is the Fifth Avenue division of the New York Stallion Series, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And it's a situation, Craig, where these horses have to be sired by stallions that are standing in New York. So these New York bred races that we see with a lot of Kentucky stallions siring a lot of the runners in the field, but if the dam is full of the horse in New York, those horses not eligible for this race. So really, when you look through the sire lines of this field, there are only about 5 or 6 stallions that account for all of the 12 runners in this race.
Right. These races generally come up a little lighter than the New York bred stakes, and these horses don't get a lot of shots at these kind of purses. So I would imagine most of them will be fully cranked trying to do their best.
Yeah, and I think these two races represent one of the big incentives to breeding to a New York Stallion, because you've become eligible to run for a big purse, even when your horse is fairly light on accomplishments, as a lot of these horses are. The slight borderline favorite that I installed was the number 2, My Shady Lady, at a lukewarm 7-2. She's a horse that you can make the argument is dropping in class a little bit. The number 10, Artemis Girl, another one that could potentially take money in here coming out of a tougher spot, but she'll be switching to the dirt for the first time. So many questions for this field to answer. We'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector before we move on to the contenders in this race, and it does feel like there's some speed drawn to the outside, Craig, especially with the number 11 Solo Shot, who won in gate-to-wire fashion in her first couple of starts. Wasn't able to make the lead in the key sense last time, but I would imagine that Manny Franco is going to be intent on trying to get to the lead here, because it seems like her best chance is to secure the front end.
Yeah, she didn't get out of the gate very well last time, kind of rushed up. I would imagine they'll be intent. Maybe the break's not quite as important from the far outside. Can kind of, however she gets out, make her way and gradually move up. I do think the pace will be pretty quick, but I don't always get too excited about betting closers in races for 2-year-olds.
Yeah, whoever is coming from off the pace is going to have to work out a trip in this large field. Let's start to go through some of the contenders, beginning with the horse down on the inside, the number 1, Miss Lau, and she is one of the maidens in this field that is coming off just 1 start when she was 4th, beaten by almost 15 lengths on debut. But Craig, this is a race that we've talked about a little bit on our podcasts or other stakes previews, that this has been a pretty productive affair. That October 22nd race at Aqueduct, the winner, Dolomite, came back to finish a good 3rd in the Demoiselle, improving her speed figure by about 15 points. And a number of others out of that race have come back to run faster.
Yes, several others have run much better, and I think the trip was pretty tough this day. We don't have Trackus anymore, so it's hard to, you can't put a number on it, but this horse clearly lost a lot of ground and many lengths around the turn, was just out in the track all the way, and as you said, that 63 speed figure doesn't stack up very well in here, but when you look at the rest of the horses that have run back, it wouldn't surprise me if this horse ran in the 80s, particularly with the trainer, Bill Mott. Doesn't really usually have his horses fully cranked first time out.
Yeah, 6 horses have run back out of that race. 5 of them have improved their Timeform US speed figures. And I think the 1st, 2nd, and 6th place finishers, as well as a couple others, improved their speed figures by about 15 points. So you could make the case that Miss Lau is a big step forward coming. She also hung on her left lead all the way through the stretch that day. So if she can be a little more professional this time, she could run a better race, but does have to work out a trip from the rail. The number 2 is My Shady Lady. And Craig, I'm going to make the argument that she is just getting class relief in this race, because she's been competing in those New York bred races where most of the horses that have been finishing ahead of her are sired by horses like Into Mischief in the case of Tricky Temper last time, or Not This Time, who's the sire of Kara's Time. Those are horses that would be pretty strong favorites if they were in this race. Now, My Shady Lady was beaten a number of lengths by those horses, but I'm going to make the case that she didn't love the slop 2 back in that Joseph A. Jimma. And then last time in the key sense, I didn't think she got the most energetic ride from Jose Ortiz. He seemed to give up fairly early on her, approaching the half-mile pole, just let her kind of drop out of the race under no encouragement, and then asked her at the top of the stretch when she was sort of running on fastest of all at the end and almost got up for 3rd that day. It just felt like she ran in spots. I think with the $500,000 on the line, Javier Castellano is going to try to keep her engaged more consistently.
I would certainly hope so. She's a horse who her speed figures before that were moving in the right direction. Certainly good enough to beat this field. I do wonder a little bit about the 7 furlongs, but again, not the strongest group she's going to face.
The numbers 3 and number 4 are going to be big prices in this race in all likelihood. The number 3, East Stormy, a first-time starter who is going out for Linda Rice, though been prepared by a different trainer, Ricky Corval, out of town, so just shipping in for this start. And the number 4, Hold Her Close, a horse who was a loser in Maiden claiming company last time, so I've got her at 50-1 on the morning line. Let's move on to some other potential contenders in this race, Craig. The number 5, Tour Jete, of the number 6, My Perfect Mistake, come out of the same race on November 10th, a maiden event where they were each making their debuts. Let's take a look at the stretch run of that race, and My Perfect Mistake is going to get the job done this day. Was able to stalk the pace in the early stages, take over at the top of the stretch, and looks for a minute like she's going to go on to a pretty clear victory here. She sort of shortened stride a little bit in the final eighth of a mile. The number 5, Tour Jete, though, is the one that you might want to take a look at out of this race because she was off very slowly and made a big run to get up for second. But speaking first about My Perfect Mistake, Craig, I think the tough thing to get past with her is that this just was not a particularly fast race.
That is the thing. And unlike the Miss Lau race, I'm not sure that we haven't seen any real improvement from the couple horses that have run back. It just seems like a race that was very slow. These are 2-year-olds. Certainly they can improve, but this one, I'm not quite as optimistic.
Yeah, this one's a half sister to G Munning, who did some nice running very early in his career before sort of hitting a plateau. So we'll see if the time is now for a horse like My Perfect Mistake. As for the number 5, Tour Jete, who's coming out of that same race, like I said, she was off to a very slow and awkward start, took a while to get into stride, made a big move around the far turn, briefly looked like she might win the race before kind of flattening out a little bit at the end. I just wonder if she can improve enough to be competitive with this field, Craig, because she's coming out of that same slow race.
Yeah, it was a slow race. At least she had a little bit of an excuse with that bad start. If she could get out of the gate better, maybe it would help her some, but she is going to have to improve quite a bit.
And I do worry that she's got a little more of a turf pedigree, being by Ward Dancer, out of a dam who's produced a couple of turf winners. So maybe she's one that ultimately wants a surface switch, but you've got to take a shot in these kinds of races when you're eligible. The number 7 is Book of Wisdom, and she's a horse that is also a maiden, but at least she's been running in some decent New York bred maiden races, beaten by some horses that seem like they've got futures, and Miss Dora Cherie, who beat her at Saratoga, as well as Ash Bernally, who won last time. Just horses that were first-time starters, well meant on those days, and Book of Wisdom able to pick up minor checks in behind them, finishing second on 3 occasions and then third last time, narrowly beaten for the runner-up spot. She's got to get over the hump and actually win a race, Greg, but this would be a nice time for her to do it for her connections.
She certainly fits in this spot. I mean, those speed figures we see in the 80s in her first 3 starts fit well in this race. I think you could blame the regression last time a little bit on the slop. Maybe she just didn't handle it that well. Didn't look like she was all that comfortable. So she's not out of the question at what I would imagine will be a fairly good price.
The number 8 is Walk With Me. Let's take a look at her maiden victory when she won on debut in early November at Aqueduct. Like with My Perfect Mistake and Tour Jete, we just talked about, I question the quality of this field a little bit, Craig. Just not sure if there was a whole lot in here. The 4th place finisher who took all the money came back and disappointed again in a maiden race last week. So the runbacks haven't exactly suggested that the 67 time form US speed figure should be much higher. And furthermore, she was setting a fairly moderate pace this day before able to hold off a late run. So feels like she's going to face a more competitive pace situation on this occasion.
It definitely does. I guess the only thing I would consider is that maybe she's not a horse who even wants to be on the lead. She drew inside in that race, kind of took it by default as you see the blue fractions. Nobody else really wanted it. And she did finish off the race kind of nicely. So that 67 time form US speed figure was actually a 74 final time. So maybe that's more where she stands.
The number 9 is a first-time starter, Elite Status, who will just move past John Terranova, probably taking a shot in this race with a horse who does have a little bit of pedigree, half-sister to Swift Tap, more of a dirt allowance type, but tall order for a first-time starter to win against this field. The number 10, whose past performances we'll look at here, is Artemis Girl, and she's a horse who is probably coming out of the toughest race of any of these when she competed in the Open Company Tepin Stakes last time behind Memorialize and Gold Lightning, some decent horses in that division, and really didn't disgrace herself, finishing fourth, only beaten 4 lengths. She previously had won at a big price, 50-1 on debut for David Donk, and has run competitive speed figures. Just don't know if she can handle the dirt.
No, for sure. And she hasn't shown much speed. And I think it's a negative that she debuted in a two-turn route, continued that way. But maybe if the pace gets hot and she handles the dirt, she could be a factor late. I'm just not sure I want to take what would be a kind of shortish price. I would imagine she'll be second or third choice if I remember your morning line. And too many questions for me.
Yeah, her only half sibling, General Ken, only around on the turf, was a stakes caliber horse on that surface. But if you go back to the second generation, there's plenty of dirt pedigree here. Salamini, who actually has 5 of the runners in this race, has primarily sired dirt horses with a few turf runners mixed in. So we'll see if she can make the transition, but you probably do want to get a fair price on her. The number 11 is Solo Shot. Let's go back to her stakes victory, 2 back, when she won the Ladyfinger Stakes at Finger Lakes. And in retrospect, Craig, I'm not sure how strong this field was. She was even money for a reason. And also, she got to control on the front end through some pretty comfortable fractions. It was a different story last time when, as you said, didn't get off to the best start, was unable to make the lead that day and just backed up. They've just got to try to make the front with her and hope that she gets brave.
Yeah, and that's a iffy proposition in this field, especially going an extra furlong. Not sure she really wants 7, and not sure she's going to get things her own way on the front end.
And rounding out the field is the number 12, Sun and Wind, who could be the biggest thorn in the side for the number 11, Solo Shot. She was involved in a pretty honest pace last time in a maiden claiming race, a $30,000 maiden claimer, but that was a decent race for the level, getting the job done. And she had previously run a faster speed figure on the dirt 3 back at Saratoga. She does have plenty of early speed, so figures to be gunning for the front end. We'll see if that messes up the plans for Solo Shot.
For sure. She's the reason I don't particularly like Solo Shot in this race. So maybe if for some reason she didn't run, I would give that one another look. Don't really consider this one a win contender, but certainly a pace factor.
Well, let's throw up our picks for this Fifth Avenue division of the New York Stallion Series. And many ways you could potentially go in this race, Craig. I think that you've keyed in on the interesting potential long shot in this race in the number 1, Miss Lau, who definitely seems like she has upside in her second start.
I think there was a lot more there in the first race than just if you read the running line, you don't see it. But if you watch the replay, I liked what I saw. She lost a lot of ground. And as we noted, that seems to have been a much stronger race than the numbers bear out.
And I'm going in a pretty logical direction here in the number 2, My Shady Lady. I think she's probably going to be the favorite. I don't know how short a price she's going to be, though, given how competitive this race appears to be. I just think she's getting class relief that she probably needs. And I thought that there was more in the tank than she showed in the result last time in that Key Sense stake. So the number 2, My Shady Lady for me, and the number 1, Miss Lau for Craig in the New York Stallion Series 5th Avenue Division, Race 8 at Aqueduct on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.